Welcome to Outside the Frame, a podcast for wedding industry professionals to learn how to be better humans in business and life.
We're your hosts,
Caitlin of Skywater Photo and Film,
and Kaylin of Wandering Wildflower Films. We're here to create a supportive and meaningful space for diverse voices to discuss social and personal issues that impact wedding pros.
Our hope is that collectively, we can bring more of ourselves and the things that matter to the forefront of our work in the wedding industry and give all of us the courage to focus our business around who we are and what we care about.
We're so glad you're joining us. Thanks for tuning in.
Today, we have an incredibly talented guest, Katie of Fletcher Photography. Katie is a sustainably minded wedding and elopement photographer based in Colorado. She was born and raised in Denver and spent her childhood camping, hiking, and exploring all that Colorado has to offer. Katie went to the University of Northern Colorado to study earth sciences and sustainability, but always had a passion for photography. When she started her wedding photography business, it was important to her to incorporate that love of sustainability into an industry that can be fairly wasteful. When she isn't working in the sustainability field or capturing beautiful celebrations with her couples, she enjoys spending time doing a variety of different hobbies. These include watercolor painting, quilting, reading, snuggling her cats, bird watching, and traveling with her husband, Nick, who is also a landscape and wildlife photographer.
I'm super excited to talk to these two. They are such rad humans, and well, I guess not both of them, to her. I actually filmed their wedding last year, and they are just such rad humans. So I'm excited to have Katie on here and talk to her about her expertise with the sustainability. Her cats are so funny. They have such like attitudes and personalities that it's hilarious. I love how animals have such a personality.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to see a cat or two today.
Probably. I feel like every time I talk to her, there's like a cat in the background. Katie.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you on. As soon as Kaylin was talking about your work in sustainability and like how, you seem to have a lot of like your values so forward in your business, I was like, how have I never met her before, even though I was in Colorado for 7 years?
When did you leave Colorado?
A year ago. So now I'm in Washington State. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, we will dive in. We are so excited that you're here, Katie. And this is just one of our first episodes that we're recording with somebody else, which is exciting. But I'd love to dive into just talking about if you still work in the sustainability field, because I know you come from a background of studying sustainability in college. And do you do some of that work? If not, kind of like how is that really formed into your own business?
Yeah, so I actually do still work in the sustainability field. I work for the local water utility and I'm a sustainability analyst for that team. So we're working hard to improve the operations there to make that utility more sustainable. And yeah, I know there's sort of like the stigma in the wedding industry of like, if you're not full-time, you're not good enough, but I definitely love the balance. I'm really lucky to have 2 jobs that I'm very passionate about.
That's super cool. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that now for almost 7 years. I started there pretty much right after I graduated college in 2018.
And so is that like full-time remote, or do you still have to like go into the office? And
we have a hybrid schedule, which is really nice. We're able to go in a couple days a week, but then work from home the other like 3 days a week.
How did you go from doing stuff like that to the photography stuff?
It was kind of like a happy accident. Again, I went to school for earth science, sustainability. This is not at all what I thought I'd be doing, but I had always done landscape photography, wildlife photography. And then I had a camera in college and I had friends that were like, oh, hey, I need senior pictures and you have a camera. Could you do that for me? So then it started off as like the senior picture side hustle. And then my first wedding was a friend of a friend from college who messaged me on Facebook and was like, oh my God, my uncle was going to do my wedding pictures next week, but he can't. Would you do it? And I was like, sure. I don't know how good it's going to be. She paid me $300. I was there for 10 hours. That would have probably, it would have probably scared a lot of other people off, but I just fell in love with it.
$300 for 10 hours. The crazy things we do at the beginning of our business is insanity.
You got to like hustle, I feel like, in the beginning and like be very scrappy and kind of take what you can get. Yeah, looking back, I was like, wow, that was insane to me.
How has your work with sustainability kind of influenced your business? I mean, obviously it's in the forefront of your values and kind of what you really push, but like, why is that so important for you to integrate into your photography business?
For the first years of my business, I didn't really talk about it because I didn't want people to feel like I was shaming them for their wedding. And I was in that stage where my brand wasn't really identified. I didn't have strong brand values. I was just kind of like, hey, I'm a photographer. Hello, here I am. But when I started going through a more in-depth branding process with Christy Black, full credit to her for doing my brand and helping me become more values led. We talked about the wedding industry has a lot of waste in it. And if I can do my small part to try and make that better, then it feels like I'm really bringing my two passions together, which is very cool for me.
It was very much Christy pushing you to push your values forward, right?
The first thing that I did with her was a brand clarity day. And that was, again, I was kind of at a point in my career and in my business where I knew I needed to kind of break out from the pack a little bit more. Like I wasn't really sure what my brand pillars were. She had like this in-depth questionnaire that was like, hey, just what are your values personally and how can we bring those into your business? And sustainability always has been one of my values. And when we at first were talking again, I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it really matters. I don't know if people care. And she's like, no, like people care. And it's going to be for people who don't necessarily like 100% care. It's a value add that you have this knowledge. And because I've been so diligent about it and I've been doing a lot more content about it, I have people who specifically have booked me and said, we really appreciated that you have sustainability called out on your values and that matters to us.
What are some of the other values that you've brought to the forefront as you went through that deep dive? What were some of the other ones that popped up for you?
Inclusivity was one of the big ones for me, making sure that everybody knows that they're welcome in my business. Again, it's very unfortunate that in 2025, we still have wedding vendors that won't take on a couple from the LGBTQ community that discriminate. And I just wanted to make it abundantly clear, especially with the state of the world right now, that I am a safe place for people to come. And I'm very celebratory of all love stories. Another one was honesty and like authenticity. I think people, just from what I've seen online, a lot of people are kind of jaded by the wedding industry. People are like, oh, it's a scam. Oh, people are so shady. Like, and then even in the Facebook groups, I'm sure you guys have seen the horror stories of, I got scammed by my photographer. I got scammed by this florist. Like, so I've always wanted to just bring that authenticity to the forefront and just be really straight up with people about how much it's going to cost to work with me, what the process looks like, lay it all out from the beginning.
Have you seen a shift in your couples as you've done that?
I think so. Yeah. Like people appreciate that I'm just straight up, and people are also appreciative that that's kind of more respectful of their time. I think I've kind of pivoted in my business, and I don't know if either of you have done this, to being just more like front loading of my information. But yeah, like sending information right up front when they inquire, and then being respectful like of their time instead of being like, hey, you have to get on a call to find out my pricing. It's here's my pricing from the jump. If this is aligned, well, then let's get on a call and let's talk. And I think people have just been very appreciative of that. I think something that Christy has always said is, if you are marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. And it is okay. And also Mackenzie Bigliazzi, who's one of my really good photographer friends and previously business coach, now we're friends.
How fun.
She has said the same thing, you want a brand that repels as much as it attracts. So if people come to your website and are immediately put off by like, oh, she's asking for my pronouns, like then great, bye.
Yeah.
Don't need to worry about it.
Absolutely. And the people that do want that or do have that, then they're like, oh, okay, that's a check mark. Like that's something positive towards you. I think it's hard, especially at the beginning of a business, because you talked about like, oh, when you were early in the business, you just kind of were like, I'm a photographer. And what was that shift? Like, because you said there was a shift, but was there a certain experience you had or kind of what made you shift like, hey, I'm going to put my values at the forefront. I need a change.
I think a lot of it was, again, kind of the state of the world, and having a few couples who I worked with who, were great weddings. It was great. We worked together. It was fine, but I knew we weren't 100% aligned in our values. And I wanted to work with people who I was aligned with in terms of those values. And I think also as I started to shift in my experience, as I started to get better, I started to raise my prices. I realized that I did need to stand out more. And to stand out, I didn't want it to be like, oh, yeah, her work is beautiful. That's all we care about. I really wanted it to be yes, and like, yes, her work is beautiful. And we really like her as a person.
How have you started to like integrate that into, your brand and your business? Is it something that you kind of like keep front of mind as you're making social media posts? Is it, obviously you've added it to your about page on your website. Run us through, how that comes into your business on a regular basis.
I think social media is a big one. I'll use April as an example. April is Earth Month. Instead of Earth Day, I did like a whole big push in April for Earth Month. I also do think a lot about what I'm showing. Again, with inclusivity, it's one thing to say, like, yeah, I'm inclusive, but then if you never show couples that represent real people and real couples, I think that is a detriment to you. So I always make sure that I'm showing people that are authentic and real couples, and not in a tokenizing way, but just being very straight up. Again, it's all right there for you. You come to my page and you're like, okay, it says she's inclusive. You do not have to scroll 10 minutes on my feed to find a gay couple.
And I think you also have that same approach, even when you're thinking about, leave no trace and the types of images that
Yeah.
you share. I think that's always the tricky part of even some images I've shared. I know that it gets really hard to kind of maybe make it even more clear that like even if it looks like they may not be on trail and they're surrounded by wildflowers, but no, like I intentionally lowered my camera to be this way. Everybody
Yes.
stayed on trail. Really thinking through that in a variety of ways gets a little tricky.
I actually shared one maybe a week or two ago where I specifically said at the bottom, I was like, hey, by the way, you notice that they look like they're in the field with wildflowers? They are on the trail. I think that is so key, especially with a lot of the locations that blow up in the summer. I know already this year we had up in Dillon, a location close because people were posting it with the wildflowers, and they had to close it because people were up there trampling the flowers. Just calling it out is so important.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people maybe don't know. I mean, people know, but I think there's also people that don't know. And so being in the forefront and being like, hey, if you're a photographer, you're a couple, you're whatever, like you should call this out. If you notice something that's going on that shouldn't be happening, mention it. And then someone will see it on the internet and they'll be like, oh, this is such a beautiful picture. Oh, I never thought about like scrunching down lower to get the shot that looks like, how to make it look like it is. I think that's really, really valuable.
And even like on consult calls, I think when I'm talking to couples that tell me specifically like, hey, we really like, we've always envisioned our elopement being in a field of wildflowers. And then I'll kind of explain like, hey, that's awesome. And I can make it look like that. But it's important that we are respectful of these locations. And I'm not actually going to have you stand and trample over these beautiful lupines. I'm just going to set it up in a way that looks like you are. I'm going to give you what you want, but we're going to do it in a way that's respectful.
And that's like that part of that being a leave no trace photographer and just having that as your own like core as a person too. Because I think when we're out there in the, hiking or doing whatever on our own, even it's good to be pushing those ideas and those thoughts to people. Because yeah, it's with social media, just you see someone in a field of wildflowers, like, I want to do that. I want that. And you're like, well, actually, let's talk about it.
You see a lot of photos on social media, and it's funny. My husband is a photographer as well. He likes to do wildlife and landscape. And we would go to these, we love going on road trips and going on trips. And then we would go to like a really iconic spot from a photo that we saw. And then when we get there, we realize, oh, the person who posted that photo, they hopped over a fence to get that specific angle. And then they posted it. And now everyone thinks that they're like, well, where's that angle that I want on this viral photo? And it's like, oh, actually, you'd have to break the rules to do it.
Yeah, or it's like editing things out too. Like I think especially with how easy it is to just like AI like lasso something and pull it out. I think people have this unrealistic expectation of what places look like, and then they go there and they're like, well, how did they get that? And it's like, well, actually.
Are there other ways that you've been able to, educate couples on having a more sustainable event or elopement?
In my client guides that I send after a couple books, I do have a couple of pages in there dedicated to sustainability. So I have a lot of tips, tricks. Another one that I always tell people for eloping, just as an example, is like, hey, instead of using a champagne bottle that's gonna, explode and then leave sticky champagne everywhere. And I get it. I love the shot. I love a champagne pop. I'm like, let's just get a bottle of sparkling water and then shake it and it does the same exact thing and it's just water. We don't need to have the bottle of champagne. Cork is going to go flying and someone else is going to find it 10 years from now. And then encouraging people with my vendor recommendation list that I have. I do have some vendors on there who also care about sustainability, so I enjoy recommending those people when I can.
Kind of diving into the sustainability, how do you approach that differently between like elopements and larger weddings? Because you do both. You do the smaller elopements and then you do the larger weddings. Like, how do you approach that differently?
Elopements are geared more towards the leave no trace. So again, the copy that I have in each of the guides is a lot different. That one is more towards, hey, let's not trample on wildflowers. Let's not bring speakers into the woods that are going to blare music. Whereas the weddings, it is geared more towards, hey, talk to your venue about what they can offer. Are you going to rent your decor versus purchase it? And it just really depends more on the elements that each wedding has. And then there's a little bit of overlap, just generally about, hey, keep things local, buy your attire used if you can. And then I always tell people like, hey, I'm just a resource for you guys. I'm not going to judge you if you do end up buying a new wedding dress, for example. I bought a new wedding dress for my wedding. Like, I'm not here to judge you guys. I'm just here to give you some advice and some guidance.
Well, and there's so many great places that even if the dress is new, it's at least sustainably sourced or isn't made at some some crazy factory with hundreds of workers in China, right?
Right.
There are ways of going about buying a new piece of attire for your wedding day that doesn't mean that it's not sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, I've recommended like for suit attire. I was like, actually, I think it is more sustainable to get a really nice suit that you're going to be able to wear for years to come. So that's what my husband did is we went to Indochino and he got a custom, measured out suit. And now for all the weddings that we will go to as guests, he has a nice suit to wear.
And also, like, you can wear your wedding dress more than once.
I did wear my wedding dress more than once, actually. We got married, as Kayla knows, she was there. And then we brought it to Iceland with us to do an adventure session in Iceland. So highly encourage that. Very sustainable to wear it twice for an adventure session.
Yeah, just make it an anniversary tradition.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have a certain resource that you find is really helpful for people who either want to get into being sustainable, want to be more of a sustainably focused vendor, I guess, if you're thinking like florists or photographers, things like that? Like, is there a certain resource that you are aware of that people could go to?
It's so industry specific and like vendor specific. And this is going to sound just kind of basic, but I would just start Googling, honestly. Like if you're a florist and you're like, how can I make my business more sustainable? If you Googled like sustainable florist ideas, you would find some. And I think that there are, though, a lot of like general sustainability kind of concepts that people could use, like, the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. I tell people in my, day job, quote unquote, that that's actually the order in which you should do things. You should reduce first, then you should find a way to reuse it, and then recycling should be the last thing that you do. So there's just a lot of like general core sustainability concepts that I would kind of encourage people to look up. Again, for me, I went to school for it. So I've had a lot of this kind of ingrained in me in a long time. I don't want to recommend my environmental science 101 textbook to people, but there's a ton of resources like on YouTube, Google, blogs. I have blogs on my website if you want to read them. Lots of good resources.
I would love to dive back into kind of talking about putting your values at your forefront. What do you have any tips or insights into what other wedding professionals that maybe are nervous to put themselves out there with the values, or maybe they're just unsure? Any tips or tricks for them?
Or if they don't even know like what their values are, like how do yeah, any tips
Yeah.
for helping figure that side of yourself and your business out?
Again, you can probably find one on Google. There's like journals that have it, or but there's like a page that I have done in different journals and then in different activities where it has like 200 different words that you could say are like a value. And then you go through and like highlight ones that resonate with you. And then from your highlighted list, then you can pull out like your top 4 or 5 and then kind of expand on why that value actually matters to you. So I have done that again, like in the personal side of things, on the business side of things, there is a lot of overlap, which I think is important. I think that's a great exercise just to get started if you've never done it. But if you do have values that you have shared maybe on your website, but you don't talk about them a lot on Instagram, on social media, I would just say start small. I know it feels very scary, but in all honesty, every single time that I share something that is political or it's very, very outspoken in terms of values, I always get someone in my DMs saying, "Thank you for saying this." I've even had people say, "Wow, when it's time for me to get married, I will be reaching out to you specifically because you are the only photographer that I have seen talking about this." Just know that the people that it's going to resonate with, it's really going to resonate with. And the people who are going to unfollow you, like, that's a blessing, actually. Like, bye.
We don't need you in my life.
I gain followers throughout the year, and then again, like when Pride comes along, and I'll lose a few followers, and I'm like, see you later, in case you weren't aware. And I know a few other people that I am friends with, they have like disclaimers on their website that'll like pop up. So if you go to their website, it'll immediately pop up and say, "Hey, this vendor supports these things. If that's not a vibe for you, feel free to exit out."
Oh, so interesting. I hadn't heard like a pop-up window for a disclaimer before.
Yeah. So if you go to, again, this is my friend Mackenzie, if you go to her website, the first thing that will pop up, it says, "We believe love is love, Black Lives Matter, science is real." And then you can just kind of, there's a little button that says like, "I agree." Or there's the X out button. And then it
Hmm.
immediately pops up like when you go to her website.
Why do you think it's so important that we do that? Like things like that, where we're putting it out front? Because I think people are so afraid. They're like, well, I'm going to lose followers, right? Like you said, like, I'm going to lose followers or someone's not going to hire me. Like, why is that so important that we put those out there?
Not only is it the right thing to do, it's really important to speak out, and that makes other people feel comfortable to speak out. So I think it creates this sort of ripple effect of making other people feel comfortable to speak their values. And it can feel right now like there's so much negativity and other people spewing their very negative values that we have to combat that with the values that we have that are positive and empowering. And I do think that the industry needs it. Again, like it's 2025. There are too many stories that you hear every year of a gay couple being turned away from a venue or being discriminated against. And it just needs to be more common. I think that's the biggest thing.
We've talked about that a lot, like Caitlin and I in personal conversations. It's one of those things where you want people to know that you're a safe space. And I think if you're not a safe space, it's almost just as important to know that you're not.
When your branding and your business is so outspoken about those values, that happens a lot less. I have had friends who they've canceled contracts. And I think having at least a protection in your contract that says like, "Hey, I'm able to terminate for cause." And then yeah, like if you had to cancel on someone, you're like, "Oh, hey, I did not appreciate that super racist post that you shared. Here is your money back. We are not going to be moving forward. I wish you the best of luck." I think we have to be willing to take that hit financially to stand up for our values.
Yeah, it's almost like a protection for ourselves as well. Like as the vendors, we need some sort of protection because if we are putting our values up front and then somebody who we've booked does not align with that, yeah, we do need some protection to say, well, now I don't want to film your wedding or I don't want to do photography for your wedding
Yeah,
because of your behavior. I mean, it's just like someone harassing you, right? Like you're not going to film someone's wedding if somebody from the couple is harassing you or the mom is
right,
harassing you or whatever.
right. So I do think having that contractually is huge. It is hard to then have that conversation, but I like to think about things in terms of if I continued to photograph someone's wedding and I knew we weren't aligned and I knew I actually really did not like them as people, I would be very resentful. And I feel like that would maybe lead to me not doing my best work regardless. So I think it's fair to say, hey, I really, truly, genuinely like do not think we are a good fit. And I want you to have someone who's going to be a good fit for you. I can't recommend anybody, but you know, this is how it is, and I think that I would not do my best work for you.
Yeah, and I think that's so hard for anybody new in the industry to see that clearly. I mean, the industry itself is constantly feast or famine, right?
Yeah.
It's very seasonal. And so for anybody that's either just starting out or going through a bad couple years, COVID and everything since then, I feel like it's just been constant flux. We have no idea of what normalcy looks like.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to feel so focused on values when you're like, well, I also have to make ends meet, right? But
Totally.
I do think that there's something to be said about, yeah, how that would impact the quality of your work. If you have this
Mhm.
angst inside you as you're working a wedding day, how can that not impact the images you create at the end of the day?
Yeah. If you're so anxious about showing up to someone's wedding who, again, maybe you don't even feel safe doing it because of their values and your identities, you're definitely not going to be in a creative headspace. And you're not going to do, I feel, your best work.
No matter what side, no matter anything, if you put your values at the forefront, your work will be better, your experience will be better for you and for whoever you're working with. Like it's just so important. If it is something you care about, you need to put it out in the world. You're going to attract the people that you want to be in your community, and then you will push away the people that don't fit, and then you'll have less issues.
You will be so much more successful when you lead with values that you have. You're going to feel so much more authentic. And then I think also for us as, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs or with like very, very small teams, like our businesses are a direct reflection of ourselves. Like I am a one woman team. So if I'm doing something that feels kind of icky, it's not like I can say, oh, it's my boss, I'm the boss. So if something icky is happening, it's really on me. It's kind of my fault. So I got to be true to myself because I'm the employee.
As we're talking about this, fine tuning your branding, it's funny that most people that I know tend to do that like rebranding evaluation much later. I think the sooner you do it, the better, because it's also just going to
Yes.
like launch you into a whole different level of your business. And I wish I had done this 8 years ago instead of three. I can't even imagine where I would be in my business if I had done this 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I noticed a dramatic shift in my business because I did my rebrand like 2.5 years ago. I started the process like 2.5 years ago. The difference has been incredible. I'm so aligned with all of my clients. It feels like all of my clients are dream clients. Everybody is very aligned. The weddings and the elopements are so much fun. And it feels like when people get on a call with me, like they know me and we're already friends because we already have things that we can connect on. It really does help you stand out, especially I'm not going to say like it's an oversaturated industry, but there's a lot of competition. There
Mhm.
is. And if you can have that, level that helps someone choose you over someone else at the same price point, that's all the better for you and your business.
I mean, that's what we need. Like, we are all unique people. We are
Mhm.
not all the same. Not every photographer is the same. Not every style is the same. So it is important that we're putting that out there and being like, hey, we are different. We are unique, and this is why.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad you got to come on and kind of share your story and how sustainability has impacted your brand and your business. I think that's a huge help for people to hear.
Well, and thank you guys for starting these conversations. Again, I just think these are the conversations the industry needs to be having, in all honesty.
No, we agree. Caitlin and I have had so many conversations where we're like, this is missing or this is missing. And then we were decided just one day, we're like, well, I guess we're making a podcast.
I love it.
Yeah, and once we started coming up with topics, it was like we couldn't stop.
That's good. I mean, there's so much that you could really do to talk about, you know, inclusivity, sustainability, branding, like the wedding industry, I think just needs kind of an overhaul in a lot of respects.
We're starting it. It's
We're
happening.
working on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen.
I love it.
Well, sweet. Well, thank you so much, Katie, for coming on here talking to us. We will include all of your information down in the show notes if people want to follow you on Instagram or other social media platforms, or if they want to book you, because again, Katie will take anybody.
Big weddings, elopements. I love it all.
And if you want to learn more about sustainability as well, she is a good resource for that. And we are just so excited to be doing this. And thank you for listening and being a part of it.